Hey, hello everybody. Jim Masters here, Coach Success Chronicles. Another really great episode today. Really excited to have a couple folks join us. We have our own Dulcie Lowen down in Florida joining us for the call as our coach. And then we've got Evan Duke, who's the CEO of the store called Classic Creations in Venice, Florida, joining us today. Hey, welcome you guys.
Hi, good to see you.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, great. This is really always fun for me to kind of get to hear what's working out there in the field. And so I know, Dulcie, you thought that some really neat things have happened here. So what I'd like to maybe do just to kick it off and give our audience a little bit of background, Evan, if you could kind of maybe go through some of the background of the store, the history of it, just to give us a little bit of a context as to what was going on with the store down there.
Absolutely. Our store was started in 1981 by my parents. They moved down to Florida from Maryland, and they moved here to semi-retire, and this is what semi-retirement has turned into. Nonetheless, they opened a store on Venice Avenue. It was a very, very small store, just the two of them working in the store with a part-time jeweler, and that store they called Venice Jewelry and Coin. And over time, the town grows, things move, new shopping centers open up, and they, to make the long story short, moved into a second location, or one location to the next location, then decided they needed to branch out in, I believe it's 91 and open a second store, which they did, which we called Classic Creations in Diamonds and Gold. Over a short period of time, they realized that two stores for the both of them was entirely too much work. They couldn't handle it, and had decided at that point to close the Venice Jewelry store and continue with the Classic Creation store. So once I graduated college in '95, I came to work full-time. Now, please remember, as a kid, I spent every day of my life in the store. After school, we came to work. During holidays, we came to work. So I've pretty much been here my entire life. But after college in '95, I started here full-time after saying or deciding there's no way I was ever, never, ever going to work in that store and live in Venice, Florida. So 21 years later, here I am. But since then, through that time period, in my transition as being full-time, as I call it, we had to move to a temporary location. We built what you're seeing now in the pictures on the website, this freestanding location that I designed and put together, which turned out to be more work than I ever imagined, due because of environmental problems, bureaucracy, and that type of thing. Of course, money always comes into play with these things, but it turned out to be far better than I ever imagined or dreamed it could. And that brings us up to speed in the short.
Very interesting. Evan, let me just ask this. So what was the business situation just before you met Dulcie? Just tell me describe kind of what was going on in the business a little bit.
We were kind of at a place where, we opened this building on April 1st, 2010. And at that point, my parents, the agreement always between us was, hey, they've taken care of me my entire life. When they're ready to retire and not work anymore, my job is to take care of them. Fair enough. I mean, they've done everything, allowed me every opportunity they've had in life. I've worked hard for it, but every opportunity I have, they have allowed me and given me. So having said that, at around the 2010 time period became my turn to start really taking care of them and doing for them as they had done for me. So we were in a place where they were starting to slow down. My mother was starting to do less. And we had some internal growing pains. The store, obviously, with the creation of the freestanding location, our business, as we had hoped or planned and needed to happen, was, of course, growing. We were doing bigger numbers than we had done. But so we were experiencing some infrastructure, internal type problems, not anything that the public would see, but, of course, us as management and business owners and sales staff would see. So when I was introduced to Dulcie, I really thought, I knew I had a couple problems, but I thought I was doing things pretty darn good. Of course, she brought it up to me, that showed me, hey, these are your problems, and from her perspective, an outsider, and that's where one of the biggest value pieces for a coach comes into me.
Yeah, very good.
Outside perspective.
Very good. Hey, Dulcie, how did you guys meet? Let me ask that question. How did you meet Evan?
Well, I had been working with another client in the Venice area who is actually good friends with Evan and his wife Pam, and they made the introduction to Pam and Evan. They both are business owners, so they talk a lot. And Pam and Brooke actually worked out together at the same gym with the same personal trainer, and so they had had a lot of conversations. And my client was good enough to introduce me to Evan and Pam, and that's how it all started.
Great. Um, well, so here's the next big question, Evan. Why did you decide that you might want to work with somebody like Dulcie?
I,
Why did you pick her?
I was hell bent against it, quite frankly. Um, my my wife, in part of the story, my wife, when I built the building, my wife did not work for me. She worked for an insurance company that she had been with for a workers' comp company that she had been with for just under 20 years when she was laid off. Um, Not a big deal. Part of my plan was to have her at some point come to work for us in the store. Um, and what happened is that transition happened about a year earlier than we had anticipated. She got to be frank, she got laid off. So in doing so, she got a nice severance package, which made the transition a little bit easier. So we brought her in. So once she met with Dulcie, her mind was made up immediately. We're working with this woman, and I said, "There's no way I'm spending the money. There's no way I'm doing it. No one's going to tell me how to run my business." And we kind of had it out a little bit. And she kind of threatened me a little bit to say, "You're going to." Um, so so we started to, and it was a good decision, no question about it. I don't think twice about it.
Really interesting. So that's you were kind of against it. Dulcie, knowing that when you met Evan, why did you decide to work with him?
Well, because, despite his reservations, he really struck me as somebody who's very coachable, for one, very open to improvement, and a humble guy, like willing to say, there's things I can improve, there's things I can learn. And so he was open to it despite some of the reservations and he didn't show me quite all of those reservations when we met either. So I didn't see all of that, but I knew he had some reservations, but they really together, um, were the ideal client. Very open to learn, very coachable, and already very successful, and just wanting to move to that next level.
Great, great. Well, okay, guys, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back. But when we come back, I want you to start to think about some of the initiatives you guys worked on together. Start to think about some of the benefits and results that we could share with the viewers. And so we're going to take a quick break and come right back. Thanks so much so far. Great job.
Hey,
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to our segment today of Coach Success Chronicles. We've had a really good interview so far with Evan Duke, who's the CEO of Classic Creations, and our coach, Dulcie Lowen, in Florida. And as you'll recall, in the first segment, we really talked a little bit about how they met, kind of some of the dynamics that were going on with the business at the time they met. So now what we really want to shift into is what the heck were you guys going to work on together? What things really seem to be the curriculum? What things seem to resonate that we wanted to focus in on? Dulcie, how did you pick out what initiatives to work on and what curriculum to use?
Well, as always, what we decide to work on is based on the client's goals and what they want to achieve. And for Evan, as he mentioned earlier, it was largely infrastructure is one of the things we wanted to work on. So building a strong, accountable team within the organization, as well as putting processes and other things in place that they perhaps did not have when we started. The other thing he mentioned was taking care of his parents as they slowly transition out of the business. And so one of the things we also wanted to focus on was marketing and sales, because we have to continue to grow the business, as well as debt reduction and cash flow. So those were kind of the key things that we began working on right away.
From your perspective, Evan, did that logically make sense as to how Dulcie presented the initiatives you'd work on? Could you see that you're starting out from sort of a general perspective to a more specific perspective? How did that work for you?
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, I was against this whole idea we start with. So I didn't know what we were going to work on. I really didn't know what to expect. nonetheless, we kind of started with the basics of our business as she learned more about our business. And when I say the basics, from a mission and a purpose standpoint, right there. And one of the first things that we did after we did some assessments of myself, my wife, and we did do some assessments of my parents, of course, because they were still key parts of the business. We did actually go back and recreate a brand new mission statement, which I never really realized was that important. Thought it was one of those BS type things that was on paper that you give to the banker when you're trying to borrow money.
Right.
Really. But now that mission is something that we put together, we word crafted. It's in fact on a plaque hanging right by the front door for every customer as they walk in the door to see. And with that, we kind of recreated our thinking of what goes on within this store. And at that same time, it helped Dulcie get an idea of who we were and what we were after.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that I think mission statements sometimes aren't followed? They don't mean much. They're kind of sayings on the wall. And when you bring them to life and help them drive the business and help you drive towards the objectives you're trying to secure, that's when they really become important. How much time did you guys spend on the mission, Dulcie, to get that kind of ironed out and refined?
Oh gosh, we went back and forth on it quite a few times because we had a lot of discussions around how this was going to drive the business and how we were going to really anchor it along with the vision and core values within the organization, and how that was going to guide the behavior of the team and everybody within the company. And so we spent quite a bit of time on it, going back and forth and getting it right. Wouldn't you agree, Evan?
Absolutely, more than I had, like I said, more than I ever anticipated. We make it to be a part. We don't do it as much as we currently should, but we started making the mission, repeating of the mission, the first thing that we did in our sales meetings and group meetings, that we would have one of our sales staff or employees actually read the mission to everyone else. And she introduced a word to me, which everyone's aware of the word, but really broke down the word for me in the use of culture, and the type culture that we intended to or hope to bring to my organization, and quite frankly through that mission.
Dulcie, how long have you guys been working together?
6 years now.
6 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that right, Evan?
Something like that. 5
Yeah.
years.
5-6 years. Yeah.
Evan, are you still seeing value?
I do.
Value?
Yes. The big value to me, and I know that's going to be your next question, Jim, is as the owner, CEO of this business, I quite frankly have no one to answer to.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of look at Dulcie, though I pay her, she's my employee, I look at her as my boss. Because, well, for a couple reasons. A, it gives me someone to answer to, someone that holds me accountable to things that I say I'm going to do within the organization. Additionally, Dulcie's a pretty strong-willed and powerful woman, so you don't want to disappoint her or let her down at the end of the day.
Yeah, fear is a powerful motivator, Evan. I know what you're saying there. Yeah. Hey, I will ask another question just real quick. Dulcie, do you remember what was the first 6 years ago? Gosh, what was the first win that you felt like you got? Was it the mission statement and really refining that? What was that, the first win?
I would say that probably was, yes, getting those things in place so we could start establishing the culture that Evan wanted within the organization. Would you agree, Evan?
That, and of course, as every business is, the reason we're in business is because we're financially driven, and it was for Dulcie to make me convert assets into cash to pay debt. That was which we started off the bat. I don't want to be construed that we were one of these businesses that was upside down and we're hanging by our feet on fire, but just minimal stuff that's quite frankly common sense that a thick-headed person like myself needed someone to kick me.
Yeah. Just how soon, Evan, from your perspective, did you think, hey, this might work when you started working?
It was pretty quick. It was within the first month and a half time. I thought this is definitely money well spent.
Okay. And Dulcie had given me kind of some notes here on some of the things that we had as results. What kind of things do you think, you mentioned a few things already, the mission statement, getting that consolidated, and some of the restructuring of the processes. Do you have kind of a top 3 things that you think you really accomplished that were good results that you could share?
Yeah, I will start by she helped me. Well, she insisted that we move forward and hire a sales manager, which is something that we didn't have in a family-owned business. We had at the time we started with her probably 8 employees, including my parents, and she kind of pushed. And having said that, I'm the chief cook of bottle wash. You know, anything from scrub the toilets to wait on a customer to design a custom ring to fix someone's watch to figuring out the payroll is my wife and ourselves and myself did. And the big part of that piece was also managing the sales staff and dealing with that. We were dealing with some internal issues with a couple salespeople that we considered at the end of the day to be cancerous. Is that a good choice of words, Dulcie?
Yes. Yeah.
And she helped me at that point identify that we needed a sales manager to take some of that weight off of my shoulders. I am a non-confrontational person. I kind of run the other way when the confrontation starts. So she said, look, we need someone to handle that stuff for you at the same time to free up your time for more high-value activities. So she helped us implement that. We did hire a sales manager that has now been with us for 5 years, I believe. 4.5, 5 years. We'll celebrate her anniversary quite soon. And she's doing just that. That's one of the biggest keys. Then most recently, a real important piece of the puzzle is she recommended, hey, you need an executive assistant. And I thought, a guy like, I don't need an executive assistant. I'm just a little jewelry store owner here. That seemed like a big word to me, and she was downright real insistent about that. And we have hired someone that has kind of really become a right hand, someone I can really count on. In fact, just today, Dulcie, I handed her some stuff that I would have done myself. Some inventory type functions that as I started, well, I'm a month behind on those actual functions, and I said to myself, why am I messing with this stuff today? This is not my job. This is definitely a job that this assistant can do for me. So I handed these things to my assistant, Molly, and said, hey, this is what we have to do. And as Dulcie taught me, I coached her for about 15, 20 minutes on how I wanted the job done. And guess what? Guess what? Come 11:30 this morning, I gave her the job about 9:30. Guess what? The job's done, and it's done. So that is a win today. I see Dulcie shaking her head. You can chalk that up on my notes as a win today. That I assigned that to Molly, and she did a better than average job, better than or if not as good as I would have done, if not better.
Well, it's so important, and your comments make it really resonate with me that we focus on the activities that provide the most value to the organization, and when we can delegate, as you're doing with your executive assistant, it just really makes a lot of sense. Hey, Dulcie, I'm going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want you guys to kind of wrap this thing up by talk about some maybe metrics that we can share. I know we always focus on metrics as business coaches, and maybe talk a little bit about what the future looks like too for custom creations. Classic Creations, okay? So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, we're back. Coach Success Chronicles, Jim Masters, your host, and I'm with Evan Duke and Dulcie Lowen. We're talking about all the great things going on at Classic Creations. Hey, one of the things I was kind of talking about, you said you've introduced a lot of new people, you've got some new processes. I know that's probably meant that you brought some new folks in. Evan, what are you doing in terms of some things that might help those new people acclimate to the culture? Are you and Dulcie working on some of that stuff now too?
Well, actually, it's interesting that you asked, Jim, because recently, and I'm going to tell you within the past month, I have had Dulcie start working with a couple of my younger employees. My executive assistant, she's a young woman. She's in her late 20s, so she is really, at this point, still trying to find her place in life and what her goals and aspirations are. And I know that Dulcie and her sat down together, I think 3 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, and had what turned out for Molly to be an exceptional coaching session, to where I offered her more coaching sessions, and she couldn't say yes and thank you fast enough. In fact, I was out of town when they had their session. I think their session probably ended 9:30, 9:45 that morning. By that time that morning, I had a text from Molly just saying thank you. That was awesome.
That's great. That's great. What do you think, Dulcie? I know, isn't that a lot of fun to work with young folks like that? You enjoy that? I always do. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I love it. I love working with emerging leaders, especially ones like Molly, who's very driven and very open to learning and developing herself. So, for a coach, from a coach's perspective, I couldn't ask for anything more than that.
Yeah. I think in all the businesses I've dealt with, I think when I see issues that people don't spend enough time, working with new associates, and so they can never become emerging leaders because they don't know the culture, they don't know the direction of the organization. So I think that's really brilliant on your guys' part that you're working with these folks so that we're all speaking the same language. That's great. Well, and hey, metrics, we talked a little bit about that earlier. Any great captures that you guys wanted to kind of share? Evan, I'll go to you first. Any metrics that you think are really outstanding that you'd like to share because of the engagement with Dulcie?
Which really, yeah, I'm going to share something really cool, Jim, and is when I came up with the vision to build this store, and that was back in 2008 when I was trying to get financing in banks, forecasting for the future. So I was at that time working with I'll call a consultant, marketing consultant, kind of a man that was a real mentor to me in my life, or in my professional life. And we did some forecasting. We forecasted a sales number to happen in 2010. We did 3 forecasts. We did a real conservative forecast, a real aggressive forecast, and of course just a moderate growth forecast. So we put these numbers in place, and as we get into each year, of course, we put together some sales goals monthly, quarterly, annually, and Dulcie and my wife Pam and our sales manager Melissa sat down and they put together some sales forecasts for the year, which they at that point present to me. Not thinking about it, just saying, okay, that looked good. I pray that we can do this forecast, do these numbers. As we got into the middle of December, closer to Christmas, a few weeks before Christmas, we were approaching their goal that they had set down, and not only approaching it, we were getting ready to surpass the goal that they had set down for the year. As I looked at the number, the day that we passed the goal, I look at the number and I said, I kind of stepped back and thought to myself, where did you guys get this number? Where did this number come from? And they said it's based on the calculations that we've done, the formulas that we've used, and this is the number we came up with that you looked at and said was okay. And I said, hang on a second. And I went and I grabbed a little blue loose leaf notebook that was all the forecasts that myself and my mentor, Mr. Davern, had put together back in 2008, and our just average forecast of what we hoped this business would do by 2010, and their sales forecast for 2010, the two numbers were $86 off.
Wow.
So I just find that to be totally crazy. Nonetheless, so we surpassed that goal that they set for us by, I believe it was December 18th or so, which still gave us, 10 of the busiest days in our year. So we very, very, very good. What do I attribute it to? I attribute it to infrastructure. I attribute it to management team. I attribute it to training the sales staff better. And these are all aspects and parts and pieces that Dulcie didn't suggest. She was really more insistent upon. Using her, we have sat down a number of different times with the sales staff, well, not just the sales staff, but the entire staff. And we have, I think we have 13 employees now, and had coaching sessions with all of them. Think tank sessions where Dulcie has her 15 different colored magic markers, and she's scribbling on a visual pad as quickly as she can, and really working with these people, and it opens everyone's eyes.
Great story. I love the story. It's so great to have a goal and then so gratifying to achieve it. So congratulations. Dulcie, any numbers that speak out to you that you're proud of in working with Evan? Anything else that would you like to share?
Yeah, I think an overall 46% sales growth in the business, averaging just about 10% per year over the course that we've worked together is something I'm particularly proud of Evan about. And as he said and indicated, there's no one silver bullet solution. That's what I love about businesses, is they are complex. And so we achieved those results through doing a lot of different things, from infrastructure to processes to marketing, to having brainstorming sessions. A lot of different things lead to that success. One of the other things that we continue to work on and we've had significant improvement in is the debt reduction and cash flow from when we started to today. It's significantly improved. And a lot of the underlying reasons of why we've been focusing on these things is to reduce the stress level that Evan had when we started working together and help him to create a better work-life balance. And so as we move into the future, those are things we're still going to continue to focus on. Part of the reason why I'm working with those emerging leaders is to, again, provide Evan with some more time to either focus on more high-value activities that will move the business forward, as well as get more time off and have more flexibility with his own time. One of the things that I do want to say is that Evan is correct when he says he's stubborn. He is stubborn, and so it's been really fun and challenging to work with him, and it makes me especially proud and happy to see the improvements that he's made in the business. Everything he's done, he knew he had to do. These were all his ideas, but it tended to be things that he was either procrastinating on or just resistant to do for one reason or another. And so we were able to remove those obstacles and allow him to move forward with those great ideas that he already had.
Yeah. Hey, Evan, let me get your reaction to this statement, because I find that we ask this a lot, and we talk about it a lot. So you guys started 6 years ago. Do the questions, can Dulcie ask the same question now and get a lot different answer now based on where you're at now versus where you were?
That's a trick question coming out of my mouth because of how stubborn and bullheaded I am. But yes, the answers are definitely, they're extremely different. My responses are extremely different. She hasn't just coached our business and our employees, as she has coached me and my wife, both not completely on a business level, but also a personal level, for personal improvement. I think on my part, I think I've gotten become a better person as far as decision making, critical thinking, those type of aspects. I was a person for a long time that was always quick to jump to conclusions, quick to make assumptions. I have learned in the past few years to sit back, take information, process the data before you even open your darn mouth, and really make decisions on data, not on emotion or reactivity. So those are important aspects that anyone that's thinking of becoming coached or getting involved with a coach needs to take into consideration, because it's not just about numbers and facts and figures. There's a lot of emotion involved in it as well.
It's really good, really good. So what's the future look like for you guys? What do you think the future holds for Classic Creations? Evan, I'll start with you. What do you think?
Well, as far as Dulcie goes, I was going to give her pink slip today. The future is good. We're at a position right now where Dulcie has helped me, and she's been very instrumental, and more than instrumental. She's been the driving force at finishing out what we're referring to as a succession plan buyout of my parents. My mother's going to turn 70 this month. My dad's 73 years old. She is tired of working, and that's understandable. My dad, his schedule kind of revolves around when he decides to show up to work, and we're good with that. That's part of the deal. So she's been real instrumental at pushing this succession plan through, making sure that we're doing this, which will probably wrap up here. Well, her notes will indicate I was supposed to call the attorney to finalize that yesterday. Of course, it didn't happen, to her surprise, but within the next 30 days, that will probably be wrapped up and finished. It's not it won't change things around here, how they happen, how they work. It's very important for us from a business standpoint, from a tax standpoint, for us, the business, for my parents as quote-unquote employees, consultants, owners, whatever. So we have taken those facts and figures into consideration. But in the next 30 days, it will be signed over, and it will be Evan Duke will be president and CEO, I guess, as opposed to just CEO of Classic Creations. What does the rest of it look like? We're going to just keep doing what we do, plugging away, trying to move forward, growing the business, inviting new customers in the store, growing our existing customer list, our customer base, providing great customer service, and exciting and quality jewelry products and parts and pieces.
That's great. So, Dulcie, it sounds like the 1% rule of incremental improvement, right? Over and over and over. Any closing
Yeah.
comments for you, Dulcie?
I am just really grateful for Evan as a client. He's been a great client and continues to be, and I'm just really excited and looking forward to the wonderful things we can achieve moving forward.
Well, that's a terrific story. Thanks, you guys both, very much for sharing it. I think the audience is really going to enjoy this one. And thank you for spending some time with me so that I could be part of the story as well. Thanks so much, and take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.